Good afternoon. In today's video, we're going to be taking the MX5 Miata right behind us here for a little fun run around the city. So in the last video, you guys saw that we actually took this car for a test drive. What I want to actually do in this video is go a little more in depth of the things that I actually enjoy about this car. I never really drove it around town yet, aside from the test drive, so this is going to be a little different. This is literally going to be like a first impressions for all of us. I'm going to discuss what it feels like to drive this car, why we actually chose this car, all the things that go along with an MX5 Miata. So let's get to it. But before we do that, let me hit y'all with a cold start. So let me know, guys, does that sound like a stock exhaust? Kind of sounds like it is, but I can't really tell. I mean, the exhaust pipes are definitely not stock, but if you take a look underneath, you see that area right there is actually welded on. And I believe that that would be the area where an axle back, or let's say like a cat back, would go. I'm not quite sure why the previous owner decided to not just unbolt it and put an actual axle back here, but it looks like it's like a custom type of exhaust with a muffler here. What I might end up doing later down the line is actually putting a legit exhaust on here. Maybe a Borla or something like that, or maybe some custom MagnaFlow muffler. I'll have to take it to a shop for them to actually fabricate it and weld it on there, since this is already chopped off, but we'll save that for the future. Again, guys, I know I said this in the last video, but actually seeing this car side by side with the Supra, it's definitely a tiny car, both in length and in width. And it still amazes me that this car is technically legal to drive on the street because of how tiny it is. Yeah, definitely a fun little go-kart. Okay. I'm gonna pull the car out because it's dark as hell. So let me pull out into the driveway first. Let me see if I can do this while recording. All right, we are successful. All right, guys, so first impressions being in the car is it definitely feels like a tight cockpit, but in comparison to the Supra, it's actually a little more spacious. It doesn't feel claustrophobic. I think that's more so because the Supra really feels like a clamshell inside, especially with the pillars on the side, where you literally have to put your head underneath to get into the vehicle. The Miata is very much tiny, but everything is reachable. And one thing that my wife actually said was that it really is like a driver's oriented car, where she doesn't feel overwhelmed. She's driven the Supra to work as a daily for actually a couple of weeks, and she told me that there was just so many electronics in the car, so many beeps, so many buttons to press, where coming into this car is actually quite refreshing. It's literally a driver-centric car where there's nothing really to worry about. The only thing you ever have to do is hit it in sport mode and then just go. She's right. I mean, you essentially just have your basic controls here for your media. Obviously, this is an automatic, and if you had a stick shift, you'd have your stick here, and that's about it. I mean, the only electronic parts in this car really is your air conditioning, which is still an actual knob system, and then of course your heated seats. But other than that, I mean, that's why I think people love Miatas, is that it really is a driver's car. All right, so what I'm gonna go ahead and do right now is, oh yeah, she needs to get a little bit of gas. We'll put gas before we bring it back to her. I'm gonna take the car for a little spin here. Yeah, it was raining yesterday, so car's a little dirty, but we'll manage. Of course, guys, we're gonna put the top down. I'll save that for later in the video. So I'm about 5'10", and I've got about, I thought I had about like 3 inches of room between my head and the roof of the vehicle, but I've actually only got about like 1.5 inches or 2 inches of space. So this car is almost about a perfect glove fit for me driving. Seating position feels great. Actually, these chairs are they're decent. They're not as bolstered as in the Supra. I do appreciate the simplicity of the vehicle. Limited amount of buttons really to confuse any type of driver. And I think one of the big things that Adriana enjoys about the car is that it's really easy to just jump in and enjoy. Even as someone who's kind of new to sports cars, she literally said that it's just enjoyable to even just drive as a daily commuter. And you can't really say the same for something like a Camry. And And I think one of the funniest things about driving one of these cars is the feeling of going fast without going fast. And I never really thought very much about slow cars for the longest time because it just never interested me to drive a slow car. Initially, when I was just looking at a vehicle, I was looking at a car to use as my own personal daily. But I figured because I already have the BMW and the Supra that it would make sense if the wife drove something fun as well. So I'm kind of glad that we kind of came across this. It's definitely not fast, but it's no slouch either. And it's definitely a fun car to drive and to even look at. I think it's a beautiful looking car. Granted, it's not perfect. It's got some paint chips here and there, some swirl marks here and there. But again, you know, this is a 5-year-old car. Mostly what I care about is the performance and the maintenance of the vehicle, which it seems like the previous owner did very well, did a very good job taking care of it. All right, we are at this light here, so I think you guys will see firsthand. Let's see if we can do a nice little pull here. Let's see what the little 150 horsepower-ish car can do. And that was about 70-ish. Not too bad. Is it exhilarating? Yeah, a little bit. Is it fast? No, it's definitely not quick. But I mean, it's enough to have fun with. And I think that's the fun thing about having this car. Before I even considered getting the Miata, Miata was never on my mind. I've owned an 88 Sentra, which is the slowest car I have ever owned. From that, I moved up to an 88 BMW 325 IS, which was significantly quicker than the Sentra. After that, I moved over to the M3, which, as you guys know, is my current vehicle. Now we moved on to the Supra, which is making more than 400 horsepower with the modifications we have. I've progressively been wanting to upgrade my vehicles with more power, more and more power. Power to me was always the answer. And that's why I think I never considered buying a Miata, because I knew that these vehicles were underpowered. And if I'm chasing power, this is not the car to be looking at. But after driving this car, I can wholeheartedly say that sometimes power is not everything. Now, when it comes to steering feels great, feels very nimble. I feel like I know where I'm going at all times. I would even go as far to say that I actually get more information driving this car as opposed to the Supra. Now, the Mazda RF Miatas, at least this model year, they weigh in at about 2,500 pounds, which is, you know, quite light still for having a hardtop convertible. Now, the soft top I think is about 150 pounds less than that, but for what it is, if you're thinking about it, it's still actually quite a light vehicle. About 150 horsepower and 2,500 pounds of weight. That's actually pretty decent. I can understand why people are saying that you don't need all that horsepower when it's a light vehicle, which to a certain extent is actually very true, because the car feels much more nimble, feels very agile. And I know I've been repeating myself and beating a dead horse here, but it really does feel like you're driving a go-kart, which shouldn't feel legal. And I will gladly say that I'm actually enjoying this quite a lot. I can't stop talking about how agile. Ooh, look at that blue A90 right there. Hello, good sir. I'm one of you, I swear. All right, so I do want to address the elephant in the room here, and that is this little guy right here. Obviously, this car would be much more enjoyable with a stick shift. I will be the first person to tell you that. The automatic doesn't do a bad job though. Does it shift blistering quick? No, not at all. Is it a dual clutch shift style? No. It's not even close to the ZF transmission that's in the Supra. But for what it is, it does a decent job of giving you feel in the car. And even actually putting in sport mode does kind of emulate, gives you that feel of shifting hard into every single gear. Now, would I much rather enjoy driving the car in a stick shift? Absolutely. I'm such a believer now in the MX5 Miata that I am totally open to actually owning one of these cars later down the line for myself. In a stick shift, of course, and potentially maybe even boosting it. Even though it doesn't need the power, a little more power is always fun. But again, if you're just buying this car off the get-go, man, you've got a great base to start with. After purchasing this car and having Adriana drive it for quite a while, is that it's actually turning her into a car person, which makes me happy because I love my cars, you guys know that. But in terms for her, I mean, she absolutely loves this car. She so much, in fact, that she actually wouldn't mind if I modded it for her. All right, out of the way, man. You gotta pick a lane, bro. All right, guys, so I actually had to make a pit stop real quick to Dick's Sporting Goods. I started doing boxing classes, and I sweat a lot, ridiculous amounts, so I bought a bunch of headbands here, and I just feel bad when I sweat and it goes on the floor, and they gotta mop it all up, and it's just not very comfortable. So here we are. We just picked everything up, and we're gonna continue on with the drive. Did you want food?
I'm making ravioli.
Ooh, are you making enough for both of us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The rest of the chicken. I made the rest of the chicken one and I put the entire lobster one in.
All right. All right, so for the second half of this video, I'm gonna go ahead and put the top down because it's beautiful weather and I like driving with the top down. So let's do it. That doesn't get old. That was a dude selling candy bars outside of the store. And I think he was trying to fundraise for something, or he was just trying to do a hustle, but I overheard him say it was $10 a candy bar, and I'm like, cat damn! Those better be some fucking good-ass candy bars, holy shit. So with the top down, you definitely feel a lot more freer. Obviously it's not a full convertible where this portion here goes down, but you have the convenience of owning a semi-hardtop coupe without committing yourself to being a full-on convertible. Heading around this back corner here, and let's give it the beans. Alright, that was about 80. If I had to come up for a phrase for this car, I'd say slow and low. But that doesn't mean it can't be enjoyable. I started going down the rabbit hole of wanting cars with more power. And you get to the point where you finally get that power and you wonder what to do with all of it. And you kind of lose grasp and you kind of lose an understanding of the total package of what a car is supposed to be, which is something fun to drive in a straight line, but also gives you enjoyment in the corners and in its handling. Driving this Mazda Miata reminds you that it's not all about the power. If anything, this is a back to basics kind of approach, and I think that's the reason why I enjoy this car so much, is that it's not the fastest, but it still gives you that exhilarating driving feel. This might go against the grain, but I might actually enjoy driving this car more so than actually driving the Supra, which means a lot. One thing that I am going to try that I haven't tried yet is actually using the manual shifters. So let me go ahead and put that into manual mode, and let's see how the shifting is in this. I'm not expecting it to be quick like the ZF transmission in the Supra or a dual clutch, but I don't think it's going to be a slouch either. These cars aren't the same slosh boxes that they used to make in the 80s and 90s. Those were utter trash. So I'm hoping this is a little better. Hoping. Still in first. So it still gives you that benefit of automatically shifting for you. It's not going to let you bang off the limiter or anything like that. But, I mean, paddles, to be honest, in this car, I would just kind of skip it. I don't think it's worth even putting it in paddle mode, manual mode like that. And did I say driving with the top down makes the car that much more fun? I've been missing out this entire time. I should have gotten a Miata a long time ago. After that little trip around the city, I can wholeheartedly say that I am now a Miata believer. Not once have I ever considered buying one of these cars. And now that I actually do own one of them, my whole mindset on underpowered cars is completely changed. Is power great? Of course it is. I love high horsepower cars. But at the same time too, can you get as much fun out of a low horsepower car like that? 100% you absolutely can. And I think that that's something that a lot of people should consider. If you haven't driven a Miata before, do yourself a favor and do it, because I didn't believe in these cars either. And when I actually got into one and drove it myself, it actually pleasantly surprised me. And the only regret I have is not having this in a manual. But again, it's not my car, it's my wife's car, and beggars can't be choosers, and I'm glad that we actually have this in our stable. So that's that. Things that I enjoy about the vehicle. I enjoy its size, I enjoy its agility. I actually enjoy the fact that it is underpowered, because I can slam on it, thrash it around, feel like I'm going fast, and not get into trouble with it. And that's a total pro for this car. All right, so who is this car made for? This car is made for car enthusiasts, people who enjoy vehicles. And at this price range, anybody can get into it. I mean, you can have a Lamborghini, own one of these on the side. You can have this as your primary daily car. It really doesn't matter. And I think that's what makes this car so versatile and so fun, and why there's such a huge community that follows these vehicles. It's because it really is a car that you need to drive to enjoy, and it wants to be driven and wants to be pushed hard. Now, would I recommend this car as a first-time project? Absolutely. I mean, this car, you can take it so many ways. You can fix it up cosmetically. You can make them fast. These cars are super versatile, and they'll take whatever you throw at it. And I think that that's one of the pluses about these cars. And they make them in mass. You can get these cars and they're like Lego pieces, how the way you can put it together. And it's really up to you how far you want to go to customize these things. But I think that's pretty much it for today's video, guys. I just want to take the car out, drive it for myself, by myself, see how it feels. And yeah, I mean, it's just a great, pleasant surprise driving something so refreshing like this. Probably in the next video I'll be detailing this thing, so it's gonna look a lot better than it does now. I apologize, it is quite dirty. But next video I'm gonna be having out is gonna be another Super Drive event coming up, I believe this Saturday. So I'll try to see if I can post a detail somewhere in this video or in the description. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Remember, respect your elders. Peace.